up, she's coming into our bedroom. So
Is it a test of babies in there?
we don't really know. It's hard to say. It may be that she's figured out that the baby is sleeping in our room right now, and she don't want to miss out, you know,
Oh, no, what?
or what's going on. But it's changed up the way we do things. But it's still good. It could be worse.
It could be.
It'd definitely be worse. Larry, how y'all?
Pretty good, I think, playing right.
Oh,
Mr. Romance.
Good to see y'all. I'm glad to have y'all back.
Glad to be here.
I had to have a tough load last.
I'll have to unmute this. I have to unmute those.
Well, anyway, the first thing I was going to do is ask Miss Anne Marie Bryant from Main Street, because they have a small box that's coming in, and an event that's coming up, and she wanted to invite me. Right?
Y'all may have noticed that the small box shop has arrived. It came last Wednesday and was dropped on the city property just behind the Monroe County Bank. And on the 15th, if it works for y'all, what we'd like to do is ribbon cut it. But since it's on city property and since the city council supported it financially, I wanted to make sure that worked for y'all. And if it does, then if y'all could come before work session, maybe at 3 o'clock, then we'll have, the chamber will be there, we'll ribbon cut it. And y'all can go about your business the rest of your day, but we'll announce some of the plans and the projects that we have going.
That's normal council meeting day, correct?
Yes, it is the 15th, and that's the way we scheduled it. And I checked with the mayor on his schedule first, but if y'all don't mind, we'd like to ribbon cut it at 3. I just wanted to give y'all the opportunity to come.
66 years old in 2 weeks.
If that works, and then I will send a formal invitation. I'll send it by email, and we'll get it forward to the entire council. So we certainly appreciate it, and we are looking forward to getting it open with its first project in March, and then hopefully its second project in June. Thanks, y'all. Have a great day.
Thank you very much. Okay, next item on the agenda is I asked Pastor Reese to come in and talk about a opportunity for some grant funding, and this is SWRF.
Well, so there's actually a couple of things, I guess we can look at. If you don't mind, we'll start with the researching project just because we can knock it out pretty quick. So the local street researching project, we took bids on it last Friday. We only had one bidder, which, not surprising, R&R Contractors, local contractor who gets most of the researching work here. They had a bid for $153,155. Keep in mind that that does not include the price of asphalt. Asphalt will be purchased through the city's contract with Monroeville Asphalt Company. I think the city budgeted $350,000, if I'm not mistaken. So once you take R&R's bid, plus the price of the asphalt, plus the engineering fees that we were under contract for, it adds up to a little less than $340,000. So as it relates to the $350,000 budget, we're just shy of that. And I wish my phone's not working for some reason. Service is not good today.
They've got a lines cut or
Yeah.
something you can call local.
So I'm gonna go off memory here, but it's Park Drive all around the community house, includes the widening right there in the curve before you get to the community house. White Street, Day Street, maybe Louise Street,
Louise Street and,
Westbrook,
Woodridge.
Woodridge, sorry. I want to say those are I believe there was 5. I apologize, I was going to pull it up, but I can't. So there is a resolution before you tonight to award that contractor to R&R Contractors and get that project going. Any questions on that project or anything related to it?
Are we doing enough to adequately take care of the problem with community house, Michael?
Yeah, I talked with Bill and, we may have to take out all the asphalt out from under that and get that regraded down, but Bill's thinking that, we're gonna have to mill up in there anyway. But we should be able to pull the water back away from it. There again, all that water falling off the building, going in them flower beds.
I'm talking about widening it.
Oh, the widen? Yeah, that's.
We gonna make sure it's good enough that we ain't gotta look at, say, we should go a little bit more.
Yes, sir. Whenever we went over and measured it all, it's gonna be plenty wide enough, and we could have, I wish we could have went just a little bit more, but the tennis court's gonna stop. If we go back any more, we're gonna wind up having to, either take off part of the old parking lot up there or build a real tall retaining wall. But it's gonna add a good bit.
And then the mill, we gotta understand what you're talking about. Is there any reason, while we're doing this, not to do some type of drainage out of from under there?
Well, the drainage really needs to be from the flower bed.
Yeah.
And I was hoping that we could look at doing some gutters on the building and getting the water away from the front of the building, taking it to the end and let it run off.
But it's time we're tearing, we're doing asphalt, it would not be a time to dig and put a pipe in there and actually drain.
Well, that would, you'd have to put some grating and all,
Rock lots, grating on it. I don't know why why we wouldn't do this time. Yes,
You would,
what would it cost? I mean, would it cost another 10,000?
it's probably gonna be closer to 20. You know, it could be a little over 20.
I had gone back there and one of the things that I wanted to do, and I'll talk about this a little bit later, is look at the possibility of using, some ARP funds, so that does relate to tourism and things of that nature.
I mean, that's fine, but this is the time to do it.
See, well, everybody, what they were explaining to me was that the water was coming into the side building, side of the building, then it was going around, and it wasn't draining out, it was going into the old, with the terrace. Yeah. Causing a problem there, so, I was looking and hoping to be able to go back and address that issue. Maybe that would be good.
And you too, if we can get the water out of the flower beds and get it to drain somewhere, we may not have to dig up the parking lot.
Yeah, but I'm saying, while we're putting service down there, this would be the time to, because I mean, it's not terribly deep and not terribly big in order to have to get the water off there, some of it off there. At this time. You just have a drop box, one drop box there where it's kind of flowing to. And, just bring it all around the side.
Let me see if I can get with Bill tomorrow. And if he can,
What did you say the estimate was?
340.
340 when you add everything up.
We're within 10 on that.
Yeah, we wouldn't leave it, 10 bowls.
Or if we can put it all on that and still, that's what a lot of these things, that's what I'm talking about, like even the ambulance. If we put it all on there, then we got more money in our red channel fund to do something with, we need down there. Heard anything off of that.
And there's more that was going.
I know, but I just, with that in mind. We help ourselves on one side, that we do things with, we can spend however we want, answer no questions there.
Right.
If others can take care of things that do have.
Now, these projects you're speaking on, is this the ARP funds or is this the?
No, so this is just local money.
Our regular, paper budget.
And left, have they, looked at Avenue Street yet?
they fixing to get started on it. They were gonna start this week, but the water board's having so much trouble, they're having to help them with the water line. They're planning, and that's, Tucker Drive, White Street, Louise Street, and Faith Street is gonna get resurfaced.
Okay.
Say again.
It's Tucker, Louise, White, and Faith. Woodridge is coming up in the next project.
That's right. Woodridge was included on the Rebuild Alabama application. I'm getting those.
Yeah, the application we submitted.
That's exactly right. Woodridge. was-
That's where Woodridge was put on that application for that $250,000.
Mhm.
Woodridge was on it.
Tucker Drive is my drive, right? It's my street.
Yes, ma'am.
Any other questions on that project? Well, if everything goes well tonight, we'll get R&R contract tomorrow, try to speed that process up. One of the things we're trying to keep in mind right now is just price increases, so the quicker we can get a contractor contract, the better off it is on them. So that's one of the two things I had. The second is a follow-up to what we discussed last time as we prepare for some of the infrastructure money coming down from both the federal government and the state government. One thing that the mayor had mentioned a while ago, there's funds becoming available through ADEM's SRF program, and those money are coming down through the state's ARPA funds. So just like the city got, I think it was 1.4 million in ARPA funds, the state got a certain amount too. And they're going to flow some of that money through ADEM's SRF program. So what we're looking at in this package here, which there's a lot of information in this, but it's trying to prepare for that upcoming money and proceed with engineering design on a set number of projects. so that whenever we're able to apply for some of this grant money come down, we have a full set of engineered plans that we can submit, basically pull off the shelf, and you're ready to go to construction as soon as you get funding.
What are the qualifications to see what projects go first? Where y'all plan to actually look at the infrastructure of the streets, the drainage problems, sewage problems? How are you gonna go about saying which one needs to be done first?
Well, so that's really what we're here to discuss today. What we did is we went back and looked at the projects that and when I say projects, we're looking strictly at drainage projects for the
Right.
city. Just so you know, there's money available and gonna become available for water, sewer, and drainage. Water and sewer will be handled by the utility board, drainage by the city. So what we did is we went back and looked at the drainage projects that we've looked at for several years now for the city. Plus we added in Chestnut Street and Walnut Street, which has become a major concern. So we've scoped 5 projects in this package. You'll see cost estimates, maps, and pictures for all 5 projects. And it's really making a determination of which of those 5, whether or not you want to move forward with all 5. If not all 5, then which ones do you want to move forward with for engineering design? And a couple of things, I guess. Chestnut and Walnut Street is a major concern. South Mount Pleasant is a large cross drain under South Mount Pleasant Avenue that actually has, if you look through this packet, you'll see it actually has wooden, it's going to be about the 5th page in or so. That's it, Mr. Melvin. It actually has wooden members with cross ties in the pipe helping support that pipe. Now, that's one of those that if it were to blow out, you're gonna lose the road. South Mount Pleasant Avenue is a pretty well traveled street in town, so it would definitely impact the flow of traffic through town.
How many more new projects, as far as drainage is concerned? I know I have 2 areas. One, the road actually, caved in a little bit, and Mr. Lasson had to go out there and, do something that was due to some of the water lines, maybe sewer lines or something like that.
Which street is that?
It's right off of Ivy Street. I know Lauderdale is one. I have to ask Mr. Lasson what the name of it is.
Yeah.
But I know over there, with the way that the water is, it's causing the roads on some of the sides to actually go in,
Right.
and it's causing some of the areas that rains real bad. You know, it's kind of dangerous to drive on.
Right.
And especially with that road caving in like that, you know. Another question I have, when y'all actually go in and do your engineering scope for it, and are you gonna do with the drainage, you look at the water line and the sewer lines together to assess the problem, see if you fix it, or what is y'all?
We try to maintain a high level of communication with the utility board of what the city's planning to do. So for example, the streets that we just talked about that are about to be paved, the utility board is aware of those streets. That way, if they need to come in and make any improvements ahead of paving the streets, they can do that. Last thing we want to do is come in and pave a street, and then a year later, the utility board have to come and dig the street up to prepare water sewer line. So we do coordinate with them, and we would do the same thing on these drainage projects.
We were asked to turn into the clerk a list of projects in our district.
That's right.
I don't see anything in District 1.
So we actually looked at those, and keep in mind too that, so there's other avenues of funding for minor drainage issues, whether that's through sidewalk projects, whether that's through street resurfacing. If one area didn't have enough, what I'm gonna say, meat on the bone as far as issues with drainage, it didn't make the list because it wasn't large enough to qualify for some of this grant money. They're gonna be looking for upwards of probably $200,000 projects to fund. Now, if there was several areas within town, minor areas that we could put into one contract, then that's something we could do. We're looking at public bid law, so anything over $50,000 has to be publicly bid contract. Some of the minor things it wouldn't be worth the city's money, pay for engineering. It'd be better for us just to go make a recommendation and then to get R&R contractors out there to solve those issues. So we did look at some of the things that you have proposed. And we definitely could go back and look at those again if we need to.
The fact is, I'm not mistaken, the conversation we had today, this is only a first round of money that's coming.
That's right. So
So
there's,
there's supposed to be, I understand, another $1 billion.
So-
Coming to the state.
So the project though, coming, fire station, your parking lot and church and all that stuff is not in there.
it's,
That, the size wise, that would be.
that would be, and we definitely could look at that. We came with 5 projects today, just based on recommendations, like on the mayor that we've looked at over time. We definitely could go and look at more. It's just, that's kind of what this is just trying to decide which projects.
Everything I'm talking about, Michael, these projects have been something the city's been looking at for years. And, what I'm trying to do is go ahead and get them off the books. And once we get that taken care of, then we start looking to go after funding for others.
At the next, that's right.
Right, out of the next round. And see, that's one reason I actually have Mr. Scott on the line now to talk about this, because we actually can go back and use ARP funds to pay for these engineering studies and have have all this on the shelf and ready to go. Because the way that I see things are going right now, it's not gonna be long before everybody's gonna realize what's going on. They're gonna be trying to grab folks like Silver Southeast and others. And then you won't be able to get an engineer study done. And not only that, if we're some of the first in line, that puts us, we can go ahead and bid, because if everybody's seeing cost on construction is steady going up. So that allows us to be some of the first in line and grab this money and start to do things.
So a couple of things to touch on there, Mayor, just as a follow-up. So number one, what we're talking about doing, and whether or not, so we've got 5 projects listed, and it's for the council to decide how many of those 5 they want to proceed with, whether it be 3 of 5 or 5 or whatever it is. But the city's ARPA funds, Rescue Plan Act funds, I think it was 1.4 million, and Mr. Scott can confirm this for us. Those funds can be used to pay for engineering, so you have shovel-ready projects together. Now, like we talked about last time, whether or not that project gets funded 6 months from now, or whether it gets funded 5 years from now, that set of plans, for the most part, is gonna be able to be used at that time whenever the project needs to be let to contract to a contract.
But the thing that bothers me or concerns me is the fact that we go and take the ARP funds now and pay for 5 studies. Well, it may be years before we pull 3, 4, 5, or whatever it is, we actually fund those things, and we've tied up money. We've spent money that we could be using for other things right now. You know, I can see doing 2 or 3, but, you know, I don't know. And I mean, I don't see all this money. You know, I don't see, I mean, we don't have, where's the money coming from to pay for these projects?
Right, so that was the next thing I was gonna touch on, is kind of what the mayor said a while ago. So just this past week, the legislature put $500 million through the state's rescue plan monies. They took 250 million of that 500 million, and it's going to flow through ADM's SRF program, which funds water, sewer, and drainage projects.
Well, I never saw anything mentioned about drainage. Anything I read, it was all mentioned about water, and sewage. You know, I don't know.
Well, where they kind of get you on that is they treat drainage as sewage. They just don't tell you. So you've got sanitary sewer, and then you've got storm sewer. ADM refers to it as storm sewer. They don't refer to it as drainage project. Now, when we heard of this money last Thursday, SRF applications were due February 1st. And they pretty much said, okay, this money just became available. Send us what you got. So if you're not ready to go, or if you don't have projects sitting on the shelf ready to go, you're behind the 8 ball. right off the bat. Like the mayor said a while ago, they just put in 500 million. There's another $1 billion coming, mayor's view. Now, Mr. Laird, we're still wrapping our minds around how all this money's gonna flow, what it's gonna look like. But one thing we do know is that there is money coming for infrastructure projects, specifically for water, sewer, and drainage. And it's just trying to prepare for that.
And, you know, the thing about it is that for years, we've not been in a position that we could be prepared to do these things. And this is an opportunity that we can be prepared to do the project. We'll have the funding to do the engineering study. And as you said, all of them may not come next year. It may be the year after or whatever. But see, if you go back and look at it from this standpoint too, these companies are gonna start charging more for the engineering studies because it's gonna be in such high demand to get. So, you know, I'm not trying to put Silver Southeast on the spot, but there's not, y'all are a specialized clientele group. And everybody's gonna be after you when it comes to start getting this money. That's the reason why I'm trying to put the city in a position to be out of the project.
Well, and here's reality, and I wasn't prepared to say this, but I'm gonna say it just because I want everybody to know. We're not really here to sell you one way or the other on this. These 5 projects, these 3 projects, whatever it may be. At the end of the day, there's a lot of money coming down and there's a lot of work going on. And we want to best serve the city. So whatever the council sees fit to do to prepare for or to take full advantage of opportunities coming up, then we're here to serve the city in that manner. We're not trying to sell you one way or the other.
You're trying to sell us all your services, that's where you make money. So I'm understanding that. How much of this part of this is going to be expensive to us, even if it is through ARP? Yeah, right. What's the engineering piece of that?
So if you look here, total fees on the 5 projects is $181,400. That's a full set of engineered plans, that's survey. That's basically something sitting on the shelf that you could, a month later, and take bids on.
And you'll guarantee, we pay that, you guarantee your services for how many years?
So as long as we're the city's engineer, our logo's on that set of plans. And if it's 5 years, 10 years from now, before that project ever comes to life, and we gotta make some adjustments, that's included in these fees. It wouldn't be a situation, Mr. Ballard, where 5 years from now, you've already paid for the engineering design, and we say, oh, well, that was 5 years ago, we're not.
I'm just saying,
We're-
I'm not, and the biggest thing I'm saying is there's something you're gonna have to redo to cost us a whole lot more.
No, sir. And so that's where this is a little, I guess you could say confusing, because this is, not the norm of what we've done in the past, like the mayor said.
And we're not committing to any of this, but we are committing to pay.
That's right. You're not committing to the project, but
So we
you're,
are committed to paying for the plan.
for the plans, that's correct, for the engineered plans.
And, I think my second question would be, I think, kind of in line with, Mr. Bruton. You know, when the second sets of money come down, what would be the president? Because I think, like you said, you had some streets, and I have some, and Larry has some, and he has some, and Stillman has some. What's gonna be the president to see who gets what?
So you would apply for specific projects. So that decision would need to be made at that time.
So
Now,
if we do that, then that means you go out and you survey all the projects that we say, and then you give us a list of what from worst to bad, right? I mean, worst to.
correct. I guess a good way to explain it would be, with this money coming down over the next 5 years, each pot, they may be looking for something a little bit different. You know, this first go around, to be honest with you, they're really looking to fund water system improvements. So new water lines, new water tanks, new water wells, you name it. The next pot of money, and Mr. Scott, feel free to jump in whenever you need to. The next pot of money may be tied to protecting roadways as it relates to drainage. So at that point, we would probably want to pull South Mount Pleasant off the shelf at that point, because it's going to qualify for that money more than any of the others. Or if you're looking at flooding, well, you may want to pull off Chestnut and Walnut Street at that point, and apply for that specific project. I don't know if that makes sense or not.
Well, I think, I mean, I want every street in my district, you want every street, them want, Mel, and we all want everything. But that's what we pay them for and Michael for, they don't have to show, because we don't know.
Right.
We think, I think this, this street right here, my street needs paved in 4 years.
Right.
But we're gonna have to rely on them to tell us, because they know, we don't know the nuts and bolts.
I think you get the word street, though. That's
Well,
what
Well, I mean,
John-
that's just, I'm not talking necessarily about the street, but
These
like,
are not paving, projects.
like with this drainage, we gotta rely on them to tell us. They go out there and go in the culverts and under the streets and everything else, and we're gonna have to rely on them. Yeah, I'd like to get everything in my district, but,
And there's other factors we look at too. We look at more as a city as a whole, not just one district.
Right.
And see, like South Mount Pleasant, if it was to blow out, you would shut the city down, a good portion of the city, but that's a throughway right there. And right now, if we got plans and we could bid it out and fix it, you may be looking at 3 months. If it blows out, you could be looking at 6 months to a year.
well, we went through that same thing with that.
Yeah.
Having to redo that, that didn't just affect, that's in Melvin's district, but a lot of folks in my district and everybody else's district uses veterans going to school and.
And see, that's one of the factors we look at, whenever we determine what projects need to go before.
Well, this is, again, when I go back to, what I looked at, that these projects that have been done, they have been on the city's radar for a long time. And we've not done anything with it. And this is an opportunity.
Yeah.
To really get those done. And once we get those done, they're out of the way, they're gone. The next round of funding, Mr. Scott, you there? Hello?
Yes, sir, I'm here.
Okay. The next round.
Can you hear me? Can y'all hear me okay?
Excuse me?
Yeah, can you hear me okay?
Yes. I was saying.
Okay.
These projects doing, the next round of funding, we can identify others and pay for the engineering studies on them, ARP funds. That be correct?
Yes, sir. And I did want to touch on just a couple things. One thing I was going to say is that this is an opportunity now that may never come again in our lifetime. I know each council member has problems in their district. So for the first time ever, you can be able to working through your engineers, you can at least you can do twofold. One is you can get a preliminary assessment of your area that address what the cost will be and what the problems are and what you can do to fix it. Then you have some projects that, like they've discussed, I think about 4 or 5 of them, that are major problems that they can go ahead and do the full workup and the plan on and have it on the shelf. Now, the way that they help each council member and the city as a whole, wouldn't it be nice as a council member to tell a person, Miss Sadie, that lives on a road that needs to be fixed, that we got a plan for it, now we're going to go hunt for the money. Instead of saying, we got to put a plan together and we got to find the money. And if you already have the plans together, if you have, let's say, an assessment for every project y'all want to do in the city, any project you possibly want to do, and you had that, and the mayor had a shelf in his office that had 40 projects on it for everything you want to do. And then for each council member, you maybe had for your stuff in your project, you might have had 5 projects that you got sitting on your shelf or your mantle at home. Now, it will be easier for you to have a plan and then get the money to meet the plan. Then once you find the money, you got to put a plan together. Because it's just almost like, I'll give you an example, it's like opportunity, meets preparedness. When you're prepared for opportunity, you can take advantage of it. And if we're not, we're going to miss out. Now, I will say this, is that the infrastructure money is coming, and it's coming big. They're estimating the state of Alabama is going to get $7 billion over the next 3 to 4 years. That's directly in funding that's coming to the state. Now, we've already heard from the director of ADECA that shovel-ready projects. And he's telling us, without telling you, that if you don't have shovel-ready projects, you're gonna be getting scraps and bones off the table. But if you want to eat and get fat at the table, then we need to have shovel-ready projects. And I'll say honest, y'all are really blessed to have your engineering company, because a lot of municipalities are having problems finding engineering companies, because engineers, it's so much of work now, it's just overflowing. And your engineering company just loves Monroeville because the money is abundance. Now they can go anywhere and get contracts, but they're trying to help you. And I think that if we can make some moves and strategize, you can get an abundance of money. And I just got a list last week of about 30 federal grants that is available that agencies and organizations and cities can apply for to get money. So it's coming. We just got to be prepared for it. And any way that you can use your American Rescue Plan funds to lay the foundation, then you'll be able to get funding for your project, and we can shop it around.
Let's kick back on that deal. That's a good sales pitch for you there.
That's a big post right there.
I need a grant from.
I understand what everybody's saying.
I promise you I
Mr.
did.
Scott, in fact, what he just said is, if we move forward and we do the engineering and design on these projects, then we can come back and get ARP money well, it's not grant, but to do an assessment.
Well, so here's the thing, let me touch on that for just a minute there. We work, and we always have, on a contingency basis. So what that means, Ken, is the sidewalk project, for example, that we're working on that. We go through and we do all the upfront work. We scope the project, we put together maps, we put together cost estimates, we put together the full applications. And through that process, normally, we don't get paid a dime. We do it all on a contingency basis, knowing that once the project does get funded, that we're gonna get paid to do the engineering design and the construction inspection. And we would do the same thing with this packet right here. You know, we've gone through and looked at 5 projects, and so far we haven't got paid a dime. We're working on a contingency basis, knowing that once it does come to life, we're gonna get the engineering work. So depending on which of these projects y'all decide to move forward with, as far as engineering design goes, well, at that point, we can then begin to look at the next 5 projects. So if you've got projects in your district that we need to look at, Mr. Al's got projects in his district, well, we'll go ahead and put together a very similar plan to this right here. And it's not gonna cost the city a dime.
So that's the pre-assessment,
This-
Scott's talking about.
That,
Right.
there you go. If you wanna call it pre-assessment, scoping a project, whatever you wanna call it.
And that wouldn't cost the city.
That's not gonna cost the city anything. Now, with that being said, I don't know that we're gonna be able to go through at one time and scope 25 projects,
That's understandable.
but we can go through and scope the next 5. So you have those ready to go, and once we get through the first phase, then, and even if you don't move forward with engineering design on the next 5, at least we've got something on paper, a cost estimate, that we have at least an idea of what the project's gonna cost and what it entails.
Because as long as you have a plan in place like that, I feel like, you know, once the money comes down and you already have a pre-assessment, you know that work needs to be done.
Right.
And if you already have the plans for it, then you just go ahead and do the engineering study for it.
That's
Go
right.
ahead with it.
That's
That
right.
way you won't be sitting around like, you know, this one or that one, you just look and see which ones are the worst and deal with that.
Right.
I'm good with it.
If, we don't want any council member to feel like their district is getting left out, because no district is more important than the other. But keep in mind, as we look at these, we work with funding opportunities. If you throw all this infrastructure bill, all this other money, ARPA money out the window, we work with programs every year. And so if you say, hey, I've got a street in the yard's washing real bad, or I've got a street in this one area flooded, well, there may be a possibility that we can come in there and get tap money for sidewalks and put a new sidewalk down that road and fix the drainage at the same time. So that's what I'm saying. Some of those minor issues, and there's there's no issue that's minor. You know what I mean?
Right.
As far as it relates to construction dollars, if it's not more than $50,000 to $100,000, honestly, it's not worth y'all paying us money to engineer it strictly for a drainage project. You're better off to apply for something else where you can get more bang for your buck than just a $50,000 drainage project. And so I don't want you to think that we left you out, or we left Mr. Al out, or anybody out. It's just we've gone through with recommendations from Michael and the mayor and projects that we've looked at over time that have been on the radar for quite a while and tried to start there. We had to have a starting point.
And the reason I looked at those projects, because the longer you neglect them, the worse they're going to start.
Yeah, there's no doubt about that.
So that's why, you know, I looked at it from that standpoint. Let's get rid of the major issues before it becomes a disaster.
Here's another thing I can say, I'll tell you, is that unfortunately, with all this money coming down, inflation is just gonna continue to go up. And so say we didn't have a full set of plans sitting on the shelf ready to go. That process, which you'll see in the letter, normally takes anywhere from 2 to 6 months to put together a full set of engineered plans. And then you've got a month of advertising. You've got, just say a month to get it awarded. So you're talking from the time you say go until the time you've got a contractor on the ground. A project can easily take 8 months to a year to actually have a contractor on site building something. And with inflation, a project that what cost you in today's dollars may cost you 30% more 8 months from now. It may cost you 50% more 2 years from now. That's hard to know right now, but what we do know is that with the money flowing down, if you don't take advantage of it, it's gonna be tough to get things done. Just because contractors are gonna be so busy that they've got more work than they know what to do with.
Okay, one other thing I want to point out from the council, Pastor made reference to the SRF fund that will be going through ABEL.
That's right.
The deadline for submitting the grant application was today.
That's correct.
So I went ahead and let Paxton go ahead and draw up the grant application and sign it to get in today, but we're not obligated. That is only for them to consider the grant. Now, the way I understand that these funds that operate, you could get 100%. They may want to come back and say, we will award you 50%, and you have to come up with the other 50% or whatever. At that point, we have the option to either accept the grant or not accept the grant.
That's correct.
So that'll be a decision that we would have to make to determine which way to go forward. But if we had not got the grant application in by today, we would need to be considered.
That's right. And we see, so that all came out, just say it was last Monday or Tuesday. And they pretty much said, hey, if you want to be considered for this round of funding, you have to have an application submitted by February 1st. We would have loved to come to a council meeting and tell you all about it. But unfortunately, the time frame just didn't allow for that. And we see that process is probably going to be pretty common over the next, I say 5 years, where they're saying, hey, this pot of money just came down. If you want to be considered for it, have us your plan by next week. So that's where some of this comes into play, is just being ready to take advantage of any opportunity we may have.
So, like I say, in going forward, I